very important in terms of telling the story to current generations of how our ancestors actually had to live. It's an artifact that's full of social history, because we can see the conditions that our ancestors had to work in. Such a limited space to work, so many opportunities for accidents and risks for harm. Bourn Mill is one of the oldest post mills in the country. It's one of the earliest designs of a mill, where the whole mill construction moves around on a central post. It means that when the miller is working here, the only controls he's really got are to start the mill, turn it round to face the wind, and when he wants to stop the mill, turn it at 90 degrees to the wind.
Well, after the maintenance inspection a couple of years ago, when we delved deep into the timbers, we could see extensive decay amongst the timbers of the horizontal cross trees and the angular quarter bars, such that we felt that it was too extensive to keep the mill open, so it was closed forthwith.
To put it diplomatically, in the 1980s, some decay, quite a lot of decay, was discovered in the main cross tree, which supports the whole weight of the mill. And instead of replacing the timbers completely at that stage, it was decided that the rot would be chiseled out and replaced with some sort of cement mix. And so, regrettably, that's an experiment that has not worked terribly well. In fact, there's some evidence that the cement mix actually would have encouraged moisture into the timbers all around it, and so actually hastened further decay in the timbers.
Well, if these timbers weren't replaced, the mill would have fallen over, collapsed. It's been on temporary scaffolding supports for nearly 2 years now, and without that it wouldn't still be standing. Well, basically we've taken all the rotten timbers, all the rotten supporting timbers out, and replaced with new 5-year air-dried oak, which size-wise they're about 300mm square, and the longest are 5.5 metres long. The work we've done will keep this mill standing for probably a couple of 100 years, to be honest, going by when the other timbers were previously repaired. Mm-hmm. So we're probably looking at the same time span of these new timbers before they will want looking at again.
I always believed it was the oldest mill of its type in the country, being a open trestle post mill. We had dendrochronology analysis done whilst they were doing the investigative work on the trestle, and that was found that the central post, which is the main supporting part of the mill, was actually felled sometime in the first half of the 16th century, which means this mill was probably built sometime in the reign of King Henry VIII, which is 1509 to 1547. That makes us comfortably, compared to other mills that have had dendrochronology, the oldest post mill in the country.
There's an awful lot going on inside the mill. Examples of changes and modifications and repair work that's been done over the years, very frequently just to stay competitive with the other mills that were being built in the area. When a mill like this was first built, there would have been something similar in every village. But later on, if we come into the 1800s, people would have been building taller, more powerful mills, tower mills or smock mills, and they would be more powerful enough to drive 3 sets of stones. And so it suddenly started to be worth the local farmers' while to travel further with their bags of grain to be ground into flour.
Well, we generally open on a Sunday, one Sunday a month, from May through to September. And we've had anything, in terms of the numbers coming in, anything from sort of 20 to 100 people coming around. and we split ourselves up as guides, taking people up through the mill. And it's fascinating. It's very almost claustrophobic. It's quite small inside, and you can see all the machinery. And whilst in theory the machinery could still work, we don't actually have it as an operating mill. But it's a wonderful insight into industry of years gone by. And also, we actually turn the mill on its axis, the post. And so we get people, when they come up to see the mill, particularly children, they enjoy doing it. And they push on the tail pole and can push the mill around. And when you're stood inside it, it's a really strange sensation. If you're on the first floor inside and you're looking at the post, it actually looks as if the post is turning. It's an optical illusion, because actually you're turning around the post. And as I say to people, you wouldn't want to do that if you've had a lot to drink. And when you go onto the floor above, then you can feel the mill, particularly in a wind like today, just moving very slightly. And that's quite unnerving to some people. They don't expect it to move, but you wouldn't want it to be completely rigid, otherwise it could possibly blow over. And incidentally, it did blow over in 1741, killing the miller. Apparently he was trying to turn it out of the wind.
How about that for a ride?
Very much.